The hype surrounding Starfield right now can at times seem a little bit much. In some cases, bordering on overhype, with some channels posting some pretty lofty ideas like, this game is perfection. Oh wait, well, that was me. Oops. No, but seriously, for most of the gaming space and even people outside of it, everybody seems to be talking about this game right now, and this might not actually seem that unusual. There's usually a handful of games every year that are promoted like this and talked about among the gaming crowd. But for fans of a very narrow type of genre, the open world space RPG genre to be exact, this is a bit more special than I think that other people may be giving it credit for. The genre, you see, rarely gets this much attention outside of a relatively small group of gamers. But hold on, you might be thinking or writing in the comment section down below, this genre is niche. Look at No Man's Sky, it was hugely popular. So was Elite Dangerous, and Star Citizen is continuing to grow every single year. Well, as I've found out on countless occasions before, sometimes you don't know that you're in a niche until someone tells you. So let me explain why it's a niche and why Starfield is actually giving a lot of hope for a very beleaguered and struggling genre of gaming that I personally love, which I promise to tell you about right after a short message from the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN, who go a step further now with their new threat protection service. It works against intrusive ads, malware, trackers, and malicious websites, and I've already been using them for years after getting fed up with dealing with free VPNs that didn't work for me. So now I can actually access IP-restricted websites while I work from abroad, all while protecting my personal information. I also use the app on my iPad every single week to allow me to watch shows like Strange New Worlds Season 2, which is very frustratingly not available here in Taiwan, which was amazing, by the way. The musical episode was a little strange though. I'm not really into musicals. So if you're looking for a reliable VPN service and you want to support me at the same time, then head on over to nordvpn.com/morphologist and get a huge discount on a 2-year plan, plus get 4 additional months for free. That's nordvpn.com/morphologist, and if none of this really works for you, you can always get your money back with their 30-day money-back guarantee. Now before we begin, real quick, really important information. I've just been given access to the game to play right now, but I haven't installed it yet. I haven't tried it, so none of the opinions I express in this video are based off of that knowledge. So if you're thinking that I'm leaking things here or saying that there's hope because I've played and it's amazing or something, that's not what I'm saying. Don't read into that. It's not a leak. So look for my video releasing on August 31st, 12 p.m. Eastern Time or 9 a.m. Pacific Time, where I'll be reviewing the game and letting you guys know about it. So make sure you guys are subscribed for that video. So let me go over why Starfield is in a niche, and then I'm going to explain why it actually matters for games like Starfield, Star Citizen, Elite Dangerous, and No Man's Sky, because it's more than just people hyping it up. Hype, you might be surprised to learn, doesn't always translate into something that's useful for the developer. If you're a subscriber to my channel, which I hope you are, if you're not, I hope to convince you by the end of this video that it's worth doing, then you're probably used to content like stuff on Star Citizen, stuff on No Man's Sky, and Elite Dangerous. Occasionally I do stuff on that, or things that kind of tangentially relate to this genre. And you might think, looking at the numbers of views that I sometimes get, thank you by the way again, and the subscribers on this channel, that it's a pretty big community of people who like this type of game. But anything can look big in a really small pond. So let me ask you then, how many sales do you think No Man's Sky made, which is arguably the most popular game in the genre? How about Elite Dangerous or Star Citizen? Well, before I tell you those numbers, let me tell you some of the most popular games ever to have sold by the number of copies. But by the way, I should note here that we don't have data for every single game, so I'm only able to give you some of the ones that are public. Alright, Animal Crossing, a game completely unrelated, 42 million copies. Terraria, 44.5 million. Overwatch, 50 million. The Witcher, 50 million. Red Dead Redemption, another 50 million. Skyrim, 60 million. Another Bethesda game, by the way. Halo, 81 million. Grand Theft Auto 5, 180 million copies sold since it released. And then at the number 2 spot, Minecraft at 238 million. The number 1, by the way, is over 500 million, and that's Tetris, a little kind of a weird one, but I guess I'll add it down here. Now note for a second, only one of those that I've listed is actually considered a sci-fi game, Halo, and it's not really an open world exploration game. It's a FPS shooter set in a science fiction environment, so it's not exactly the same. So the majority of these mainstream games, first of all, are not sci-fi at all. Now, let's talk about how many copies of No Man's Sky have been sold. 10 million copies since 2016. 10 million! Compared to Grand Theft Auto 5 at 180 million. If you've been following the internet buzz around No Man's Sky since it came out, you probably would have thought it had been huge, right? Because there was so much drama surrounding its release and its eventual comeback, which is great. I mean, it finally started to deliver things that they promised way back in 2016. But it's not actually as popular as the hype would have suggested. How about Elite Dangerous? 4.8 million units. And then there's Star Citizen, a little bit behind, with 4.7 million copies sold. Alright, so now I've established pretty definitively here that this is a pretty niche genre of game. I personally see No Man's Sky, Elite Dangerous, and Star Citizen, although they're multiplayer games, in the same sort of area as the scope, scale, and focus of Starfield, despite the fact that it's not a multiplayer game. So why then does it matter that a game sold however many copies? Well, the reality of gaming today is that it's mostly about the money for the money people, the people who actually fund these projects. For them to want to fund a game, they need to be sure that they're going to get a return on their investment. And unfortunately, space games turn out to be enormously expensive and time-consuming to make. Not like an FPS shooter set in a very narrow setting that can be flipped out in 2 years. And this is why a lot of space games that have come out and been hyped and then kind of disappointed people have been compromised. Games like, for example, Elite Dangerous tried to make a really expansive and interesting universe and in some ways succeeded by making the entire Milky Way galaxy. But as many have pointed out, sometimes it can feel incredibly wide, and maybe the width of a galaxy, but only the depth of a puddle. And that's because trying to actually develop every single planet was just not feasible for them and the size of their development team and the amount of people buying the game to fund them. And then look at No Man's Sky, arguably the most successful in the genre if you don't look at just pure funding. They were able to sell 10 million units, but when they started off, they disappointed a lot of people. They were only actually a very small independent studio that developed it in the first place. Again, this is something that typically only gets made by small studios who are willing to take on the enormous amount of effort it takes to make a space game. People who are really enthusiastic about the genre. And even then, it was pretty compromised. Arguably, it's not a sim, it's pretty arcadey. As much as I love No Man's Sky, there's nothing about it that's realistic. And then let's look at Star Citizen. Now they've got an enormous amount of funding, 600 million by the making of this video. And they've got a studio of 1,300 people. But the thing is that it's now on the 10-year mark and they have yet to complete a single system and deliver even half of the features that are required to make a full game experience in said system. And there have been countless other promises that have been made by little indie studios that have tried to make a big expansive universe. I mean, look for example at Dual Universe, bless their hearts, they really tried, but so many things unfortunately fell through the cracks just due to the limited resources that they had to make the game. Basically, the point I'm trying to make here is that time and time again, we've seen both big, small, and independent studios try to make open-world exploration games in the way that we gamers imagine, in a universe where we can explore anything, go inside spaceships, fly around, find pirates, go down to a ground surface, and find aliens, explore caves, basically do anything that you could do in the real world, but in a virtual environment. But nobody's been able to deliver it because the plain truth of it is that there's no getting around the fact that you need lots of people, lots of time, and lots and lots and lots of money. Which is why so few games like this exist, and why the ones that do struggle so much, leaving us fans feeling like there's little hope. So for a game like Starfield to get as much attention as it's getting today, being already at the top of the sale chart on Steam without even having released and only releasing on 2 platforms, PC and Xbox and not PlayStation, it's really surprising to me that so many are interested in this specific genre. And it gives me hope that if it's marketed the right way, made by the right company, and able to be delivered in a product that people can enjoy today, that there is hope for the genre, that we might see a renaissance in space exploration games that are fully detailed with ships' interiors, with space exploration, ground exploration, everything that my little kid heart dreamed of seeing but thought would always be impossible and just out of reach. Now, I want to make sure that you guys don't misunderstand me here. I'm not saying that Starfield is the savior of the genre. It feels like it's going to be really good, looking at Bethesda's ability to make really good, strong RPG games from the past. They've made mistakes though too with Fallout 76, which does give me, and I'm sure many of you, pause. I did a poll on my channel recently asking if you have pre-ordered the game, and most of you are waiting for reviews. I think that's smart. But I think at the very least, even if Starfield doesn't live up to people's expectations, that it is proven that there is life in this genre, that it can appeal to a wider audience and deserves more attention by the suits. So maybe, just maybe, we're gonna see more games coming in the future. I still have my hope for Star Citizen, but for the time being, it looks like Starfield might be the game I actually play. Do you agree with me that this is giving hope for the genre, that it might actually help out other games which are struggling like Star Citizen, maybe give them more people and funding by people going over afterward and looking for a multiplayer experience similar to Starfield? Or do you disagree? Do you think that it's going to be a disappointment and that it's going to kill the genre? Please, I hope that's not the case. Anyway, I've been Morphologist. Hope to see you in the next one.